Nonetheless, for the fifth year in a row, the future will predict it for us 2024 election. Will Donald Trump return to the White House? However, predicting a presidential race a year out is tough. In the midst of an intense campaign, national polls show Joe Biden and Donald Trump are separated by the finest margins as they are locked in a narrow campaign. According to a recent survey, U.S. voters see Trump as more favorable for the economy compared to President Biden. In this three-day poll, 41% of participants favored Trump's economic approach over Biden's, while 34% favored Biden's. The remaining respondents expressed uncertainty candidate had a superior stance. Mr. Lichtman said that early polls should be taken with a pinch of salt. As he says in his interview, early polls have zero predictive value. They are momentary snapshots. For example, they say, if the elections were held today, this is where the candidates stand, but the election is not being held today, so polls are not of any value for prediction. Early polls often lead you astray. As we saw in 2016, when I had predicted Donald Trump's victory, contrary to the polls, or in 1988, when George H.W. Bush, as late as May and June of the election year, was 17 points behind his opponent Mike Dukakis, and went on to win with a 25-point swing. That's why I tell everyone, to get the polls, to get the pundits to keep your eye on the big picture. As gauged by the keys, Mr. Lichtman's predictive prowess faced its most significant test in the tumultuous 2000 election between Al Gore and George W. Bush. While he forecasted a victory for Gore, the controversial outcome cast a shadow over his prediction. Political scientists Robert Erickson and Christopher Vlezian have noted that polls from the start of the election year have virtually no predictive power. But when it comes to calling presidential races, people still respond to the state of the economy the year the election is held, and the new facts they learn about the candidates as campaigns progress. A better approach, compared to using polling, is to reference some of the forecasting models political scientists have developed for predicting elections in advance. But many of these rely on data that's only available mid-year, like presidential approval ratings or economic growth in the first half of the year. The one exception is a model from political scientist Jay Dysart, which Rage National polls conducted in October of the year before the upcoming election. He said, I entered the head-to-head Biden in October 2023 into the model and found that it predicts a healthy win for Trump victory by 297 electoral votes to 241. And the median estimate indicates that Biden would lose Georgia, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin, but retain Michigan. He also added, but it's a narrow advantage. The polls I relied on showed an average Trump lead of 0.2 points. A swing of less than 2 points in the polls would lead to a prediction of a Biden victory. So while I think the public's lackluster mood toward the economy and Biden's relative unpopularity put him at a disadvantage going into 2024, it'll be a nail-biter for sure. However, it assumes Trump will be on the ballot, and the Colorado Supreme Court's ruling disqualifying him puts that in some doubt. As Dylan Matthews said, whether Trump's participation in the January 6, 2021 insurrection disqualifies him from the ballot, and I cannot envision the court ruling against Trump, both because of its partisan leanings and out of fear of Trump supporter backlash delegitimizing the court. So, it would not be wrong to say that Donald Trump will return to the White House. The chances are 55%. However, with developments from the U.S., the experts will be also using their specialisms to periodically plot their likely winner on a sliding scale. Each time, they will be explaining their decision. It was predicated on Mr. Trump's criminal trial in New York over hush money payment allegations that finally started. Donald Trump is facing serious criminal charges. Those in his Manhattan hush money trial are not among them. Also, the Republican candidate is by no means pleased to be the first former president to stand criminal trial in his New York case. However, it brought by an elected Democrat who bragged about his pursuit of Mr. Trump is the easiest for him to frame as a witch hunt. Well, I doubt the trial will produce some uncomfortable headlines for Mr. Trump, and the White House may also feel that every day Mr. Trump is the biggest story of the day is a good day for Joe Biden. But despite all of this, you will be shocked to know that according to a recent poll, only a third of Americans believe Mr. Trump acted illegally in the Manhattan case. And Mr. Trump is determined to use the media platform of the proceedings to amplify his claims of political persecution. Now, the White House race just come down to a knife edge, but it's unlikely to be the Manhattan case that tilts it one way or the other. Additionally, courtroom dramas are likely playing heavily on the minds of voters, as Mr. Trump's lead over Mr. Biden falls to its lowest level since October, a minuscule 0.2%. Even, the outcome of each trial is very unlikely to convince solid MAGA voters to change their vote. In this way, a recent Ipsos poll showed that a third of Republicans were more likely to support Mr. Trump if he was convicted in the hush money case. On the other hand, only 10% would support him less. But that's true. The real impact might be amongst non-aligned voters, a third of whom would say they would support Mr. Trump less. And with his lead narrowing in 5 of 7 swing states since last month, the continued presence of the trials could damper his chances. A foreign crisis and a stirring State of the Union, Mr. Biden looks like Jimmy Carter in 1980, who was temporarily buoyed by chaos and the advantages of incumbency. In fact, as Mr. Trump's poll numbers improve, he retains an edge in the Electoral College, and so long as the Republican holds Georgia and North Carolina. However, he is competitive in the Rust Belt, and his path to victory remains clear. While the criminal proceedings that Trump is facing are undoubtedly serious, his current favorable position in the polls is likely to decline if he is found guilty because there are a lot of avenues for self-promotion in New York. The true blue state has not even gone Republican since Reagan, but it has an amazing concentration of journalists in the country. The former president will be betting on big coverage to push his message of partisan persecution. The experts are asked to plot their choice on a scale of 100, where 0 represents a Joe Biden landslide, 50 is a tie, and 100 is a Donald Trump landslide. Well, if you liked this interesting video, then please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell so that you can stay tuned for the latest updates. We'll catch you soon. Goodbye for now.